Hey everybody, I'm Bishop Megan Rohrer, and tonight we're going to talk about Sierra Pacific Outdoors. Now, remember, everything that we're talking about is part of a vision, which means it's not set in stone. It's a bunch of great ideas that we have, and we hope that you will be a part of it. And tonight I am joined by some very smart people in our Synod. First up to introduce themselves,
Gail
is
Kiyomura. Yeah, Gail Kiyomura. I'm your Synod VP. I go by she and her.
And we also have
Good evening, everyone. This is Pastor Tita Valeriano, your Director for Evangelical Mission and one of the assistants to the bishops.
And we are all going to spend some time kind of chatting tonight about Sierra Pacific Outdoors, but I'm going to start with just kind of telling you a little bit about the overview of what it is. And so check this out. Sierra Pacific Outdoors strives to promote mind, body, and spirit wellness and leadership development spaces throughout the Sierra Pacific Synod with particular care for children, youth, young adults, families, and diverse communities. The purpose of Sierra Pacific Outdoors is to be faithful stewards of properties of the Sierra Pacific Synod that are used for camps, conferences, retreats, and community events. Now, this is something that's a much bigger vision, but tonight we're just going to give you a snapshot of some of the ideas that we have about this vision. There are three parts of this project that I am super excited about. First is the idea that we can support diverse leaders. Did you know that a lot of the people who end up going to seminary to become pastors and deacons, or who are working in leadership in congregations, or maybe just people who made it through catechism and got confirmed in their churches, very often cite the fact that they went to camp as a part of that discernment process. Some people went on mission trips. Some people got perfect attendance awards. There were lots of different ways we've had throughout the Lutheran Church to try to celebrate and encourage active and diverse leadership. In the past, the places that people have been able to go to develop their leadership sometimes just spoke to particular demographics, those who could take time off, those who could go to summer camp, or those who were able to get out of an urban setting and into a rural setting. As we seek to actively try to be lifting up the fullest diversity of leadership possible, we want to make sure there are places as fun and exciting as camp throughout our entire synod. That means both in urban and in rural areas. But, you know, we've got a camp already, and it's called Mount Cross. And you might be thinking, why don't we just put everything into Mount Cross? And surely we could. Do you see this picture right here? Do you see that stick on the top of the roof? That stick is what happens when you have buildings in the midst of the redwoods. That's a branch. When a branch falls from a redwood tree, it is strong enough to pierce the roof of a building. So even if we hadn't let some of our buildings go without repairing them as often as we should have, Mount Cross would still need regular repair and care and love just from the Holy Spirit blowing through and sticks falling down from time to time. But we also, like many congregations around our synod, when times were tough, weren't able to put in all of the repairs that were needed in order to keep the place up. So we're going to change that. My family has been working on that. That's my kiddos right there. We've been painting and putting in new flooring, and we even retiled a bathroom. And there are lots of people who have been going to Mount Cross, and particularly recently, folk who come for work days, and they provide and lend a hand that they can. But there's also a bunch of repairs where we really do need some professionals to come in. Now, there's another idea that's brewing in our synod that I'm pretty excited about, and that's the idea that, well, there are more places that Jesus went on retreat to than just to the mountains. Jesus went to the desert. And our fine, faithful Lutherans up in Nevada have been wondering, what would it be like if we had a retreat center up near us? And there's a group of people who are looking for the location that would help us nurture our faith. They're looking for communities and ways that they can nurture some of the smaller congregations out in rural spaces. And they're thinking about ways that a location like this could help us learn to care for creation. What would it be like if there was an eco village where people gathered around their faith? Maybe it was off the grid. Maybe it had geodesic domes or yurts. Maybe every 7 years they move the space so it doesn't disrupt the alkaline in the soil. Maybe it's a space where we learn to see the stars that we miss when we live in the city. However it is that you encounter God, this new and exciting idea is just one more way to try to lift up diversity. And I think in a time like this, in the midst of pandemic, to create spaces for wellness. Did you know that when we go on events, when we have a professional leaders conference, we might put up to $60,000 into a for-profit hotel? What would it be like if we invested those funds back into the mission and ministry and the leadership and the wellness of leaders in all levels of our synod? Well, there's another not so fun story, and that's that the Sierra Pacific Synod inherits properties sometimes that are in need of a little bit of work. This is beyond deferred maintenance and a space where the roof leaked for so long that it created long-standing property damage. Well, we want to be the kind of synod that when a property is needing some love and care, can help renovate it so that it's not a burden for that community, so that we can help rethink the way faithful finances work and maybe create a new start that is able to be supported by its building rather than indebted to its building. And we have some ideas for that, and we're hoping to collect more ideas from those who might also be able to think about things like this. This site in Oakland that I was showing you pictures of also has a parsonage. And we wondered, what would it be like if we had parsonages that could be spaces where BIPOC leaders or BIPOC seminarians could stay and afford to work and live and serve communities that might or might not be able to afford a full-time salary. We're trying to think about ways that we can use our resources to live out our faith and live out our vision for a much more diverse synod. Now, all of this is something that might sound strange or unusual or different than the way we did things in the past, but the hope is that we're basically making a conversation happen that's bigger. We want to pool resources so that we have enough of a financial impact to change the economy of our synod and to support our community in ways that we haven't previously been able to support them. And we want to try to get this conversation started so that we can think about doing things in a new way. So that's the overall vision. Here's a little bit more about what you need to know. And Gail is going to share with you some of the properties that the synod already has and how they're being used.
Thank you, Bishop. So basically, we have properties that are owned by, can you see me? Out of curiosity. Hello? Hello?
Can see you.
Okay, are we back? Okay.
Yeah, you're back. We can hear you.
Okay. I was all of a sudden on a black screen, but all right, I'll just keep talking. Sorry, folks. So we currently have properties. We have 2 properties that are in the Central Valley. They were previously congregations, and those congregations did do holy closure, and the synod did receive those properties. One is Hilmar, and that particular property is in escrow. In other words, we have a buyer, and so we're hoping to have that transaction done within the next 30 to 45 days. And then with that, we will have proceeds from the sale that will help support the vision of Sierra Pacific Outdoors. We also have another property in Sanger, Fuente de Gracia, And they are, that's the name of the congregation that's there. We were working with them as an outreach and allowing them to use our facility. So there are ways when we have our properties that we would love to help local communities or other groups to use that facility and maintain a good standing and be with our communities that these properties are in. Another property we have is in Richmond. It's the Grace Lao Church in Richmond. Currently, it's a Lao elders that are maintaining the work and providing services on Sundays. We enjoy them, and they hopefully enjoy working with our Synod together. But we also are making sure that our properties are safe. So that is one of the things with the Sierra Pacific Outdoors that we want to make sure of is that we continue to fund the maintenance and the care and the replacement of our properties so that they can be used by others. Another property in Oakland, which is St. John's, which were the pictures that the bishop was showing, we now have that. There is a congregation there that uses the community center that's on site, but there's also the parsonage that we talked about and a very large sanctuary that definitely needs some work. But the vision for St. John's, because it is in urban Oakland, is to be kind of an urban camp, to allow classes to be held there, to have urban types of camps that are allowed there so that the community can be part of the church community that we hope to build there. And of course, there's Mount Cross. Now, we have a 50-50 arrangement with the Missouri Synod Church. And Mount Cross is probably, for many of you who have been to Mount Cross, who have camped at Mount Cross, it is a near and dear place for many of us and many of our children. My two kids participated in SPISIC, which is the Sierra Pacific Synod Youth Committee, and they held their retreats there. So Mount Cross needs some work. And so one of the things we want to do is to make sure that we, again, provide the maintenance and the care for that building and for that facility. One of the main things that Bishop was talking about is how camp forms our youth and forms them so that they become leaders. And what we'd love to do is make sure that those leaders are coming from diverse backgrounds so that we can build their love for Christ and love for God and be able to go out into the world and continue to do that. But we need to have a place, and that one of those places is Mount Cross. So we're hoping that with Sierra Pacific Outdoors and with the Sierra Pacific Synod, that we can infuse that facility back and put money into it so that it can run and it can be the gem of our Synod. Bishop, I give the properties back to you, or the whole conversation back to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So we're thinking about raising a ton of money for a capital campaign. $1 million for Mount Cross to help with the revitalization and repairs. $1 million for this idea of having a new space in Nevada where people can have retreat and wellness, and $1 million to put into synodical properties to help them become more economically self-sustaining and to try to become vibrant centers in their communities. And we have Pastor Tita here with us, who's going to share a little bit about one of the ways that some folk in other sites have been able to kind of maybe think about the ways that they want to use their building in order to do evangelism and in order to care for their communities. This is one idea. And the good news is Pastor Tita is always willing to have conversations with folk who have lots more ideas and want to talk about how to grow their congregations. You can have conversations about your congregation by letting Pastor Tita know you want to talk church vitality or growing younger or any of those wonderful things. But tonight, Tita, will you tell us a little bit about one of the ways that people are kind of partnering to work with congregations?
Thank you, Bishop. And I am excited that even though the things I'm going to share with you is not yet concrete, because we are a congregation that hopefully not work in silos, but deeply collaborative. Also, we are a community of disciples, learners, and apostles being sent, those doers. So, one of the gifts of our new start leaders and emerging communities and our existing congregation that I have learned, especially during pandemic, is resilience and able to live out God's generosity even during scarcity. So we are not talking about scarcity here because you have heard from BP Gail and Bishop these possibilities that we can do together. So, on the other hand, in our participation to the wider ELCA Future Church goal of reaching out to new people, and that means young, racially and economically diverse LGBTQ communities, sustainability is a big challenge, but or and could be a great gift because sustainability is both about relationship and resources, gifts from our relational and providing God. One of the things we as a church is learning is a model of these three areas that put relationship and resources at the heart of the mission and ministries of a community. What are these three areas? Word and Sacrament, a worshiping community; service ministry, a one or multiple ministries um, whose goal and main purpose is to serve the community. We don't have to duplicate them. We don't have to duplicate, but find a niche and find partnership. And the last one is social enterprise or entrepreneurship, which is a little bit different. But if you will Google it, you will find this very simple definition of that. A social enterprise is an organization that applies commercial strategies to maximize improvements in financial, social, and environmental well-being of the community. So again, I want to see these three areas, share with you the three areas: word and sacrament, service ministries, and social enterprise. And ministries could be that our place will be a center for the community. Something that has been happening in the past, but what are our vision and our innovation thinking if we apply them in a place like St. John? So this model, either for a new start or existing congregations, has been experienced and experimented before in other parts of our church. This model is about recognizing and capitalizing the gifts of relationship, not working in silos, but in close cooperation, collaboration, and shared values and mission. But it's also recognizing and capitalizing on shared resources that we can pull together. This model, I believe, can happen both in a new church plant in our synod, or as we call it here, synodically authorized worshiping community, or any existing congregation. So who knows? It will be your congregation, St. John, or other opportunities that God has been is steering our hearts to go to and be who we are with this possible model of word and sacrament, service ministries, and social enterprise and entrepreneurship. So back to you, Bishop.
Thank you. And in case there are a few people out there who are visual learners, instead of hearing us talk to you about a project, this is the way that I sort of think about what Sierra Pacific Outdoors is. Remember, there's those three things I'm excited about: supporting diverse leadership, evangelism, and diversifying congregational incomes. And so the way that we're going to be able to kind of live into these three visions is utilizing synod properties, retreats, and camps. And then my big vision for the future is other congregations. But all of that will come together as Sierra Pacific Outdoors. The idea is that we engage in this holy experiment with the properties that the synod owns as an effort to kind of collaborate and work with communities and to learn a few things that then might make us good consultation partners with congregations who are also thinking innovatively and thinking about what this might mean for their own space. All right. So you've heard the list of the things I'm excited about. I got one last pitch for you because I've been traveling to a lot of different congregations. I've been to 76 congregations and ministry partners so far. And so this project sort of is a collaboration about what I'm hearing from different spaces. But the number one thing we haven't mentioned yet that almost every single congregation hopes for and brings up involves our super secret special guest. Miss Catherine, will you introduce yourself and tell people you know why you're here, right? Because all our congregations want to grow younger, Catherine. Tell them
Yes.
about why ideas like this are great for young people.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Slavont, and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Communications and Connections Coordinator for the Synod. And projects like this excite me because so much of Sierra Pacific Outdoors connects directly to why I'm here today and why I work in the church. I experienced Mount Cross, experienced Spizik, and experienced the church pouring into young people and how that raises leaders and equips leaders to maybe work in the church, maybe work in another industry. But it creates a church that is thriving, is vibrant, and just centers voices of all different types of people. So it's personally important to me to see the Synod and to see our congregations pour into our ministry partners such as Mount Cross that do this work and that are the hands on the ground, and then also think of new ways of how we raise up other leaders in our areas that come from some of those diverse backgrounds, and really make it as accessible as possible, so that everyone has the same gift that I received when I was a youth and when I was growing up.
Yeah, but are you going to show them your tattoo?
Oh yes. This is a good connection to this. So when I was 18 years old, like every good 18-year-old, I wanted to get a tattoo, and I wanted to get something permanently that I knew would continue to be an important part of my life for the years to come. And so I got a redwood tree, and it's on my wrist. It's a little crooked right now, but I promise it looks better in person.
As
But
you age, it might continue.
yeah. But to me, it serves as a constant reminder of a lot of my roots and where I kind of discovered my faith and discovered my passion in the world and what I wanted to do in this world. And so I'm personally vested in this project a bit.
Do you want to hide back behind the scenes again?
Of course.
Of course. Thank you, Catherine. Well, so my question for y'all is the point, I think, in thinking about supporting diverse leadership and trying to do everything we can is to try to name explicitly that our synod is so much more than just the pastors and the deacons and the employees of congregations, that it's the lay people, and it is the neighbors, and it's the people who have been the community in the cloud of witnesses all those years. And so my hope is that as we lift up kind of diversity in our synod, that we'll be lifting up folk into all kinds of leadership positions. So caring for congregations, doing some of the council work, maybe serving on committees, or just being someone who is caring for the homeless and hungry at the food pantry that's around them. I don't know. Do you have a sense, Gail, about how we can support kind of leadership in a new way?
I think leadership is one of those wonderful terms that we try to figure out and quite can't put our hand on it, because everyone comes with different skills to be a leader. One doesn't have to be just out there and being gregarious and doing that. Some leaders are actually quiet, and people are drawn to them because of that quietness that they may have. And so many of our leaders from diverse backgrounds, that's their leadership style. And so we need to be aware of that. We need to be aware of people's backgrounds and their diversity and ethnicity in order to really capitalize on that strength that they have. I think when I go out and I visit congregations, I'm always looking for leaders. I'm always looking for those people in the congregation because, as Bishop knows, I am a huge proponent of laity. Laity is what continues to make our church grow, and it makes us strong. And so when you can lift up good lay leaders, they don't have to go to seminary, they don't have to be a team member, but they are the strength of that congregation. And if you can take that strength of someone who's in that congregation and develop it so that maybe we can have them help us at the synod level or even at the church-wide level. And maybe throughout that course of work, they get a call in the sense of like, I want to continue to do this and I want to develop a ministry. Again, you don't have to be clergy or a rostered leader to do this. You can do it as a lay leader. And I think that's the beauty of what we do. And I think that's the beauty of our church is the strength in our lay leadership. And so I ask those of you out there, if you feel like, yeah, I really want to do this, do it. We'll find you. Trust me. Let Bishop know. I'm happy to come and visit and talk to you too about how lay leadership is really a gift and a strength in your congregation.
Well, Gail, the three areas cannot happen without lay leadership. See, there's only one word and sacrament. The leaders there could be both lay and ordained, both word and service and word and sacrament. But the rest of this, I would say, diaconia runs through lay leadership. We cannot have any service without lay leaders. I just want to point that out. And we do have two. And Gail is participating in one of the Asian Lay Evangelist Program, a very brand new initiative. And there's also a lay planter. So church planter doesn't have to be ordained. That is the best part of it, right? What's this? Expressing who we are, truly are as Lutherans, priesthood of all believers.
Yeah, and the wonderful thing is that there is a whole long list of different ways that people can be involved, and it might not be the regular stuff that you're thinking about. So if you're only used to people staring at you for a long time because there's a new treasure that's needed, because that's the job that's a tough one every congregation needs, and God bless all you treasurers out there. The synod and church-wide has all kinds of different leadership training, from coaches to chaplains to lay deacons and ordained deacons to people who are trying to think about how to faithfully resolve conflict in congregational systems. They call it Systems Academy, right? And there's so many different types of leadership skills and building and trainings. Pacific Lutheran Theological Seminary has a whole group of different types of certificates that you can get to try to develop your faith in every stage of your life. And I think we want to be the kind of church that is caring for people as they are, not only trying to give people a list of who we think they ought to be. And that work is so vital and important. But you might have noticed already, or if you haven't noticed already, you'll find that I'm a person who has lots of ideas, which kind of comes from deep listening of congregations all over the space. But one of my favorite things that Pastor Tita says whenever I have a new idea is to tell a congregation, if you have a lot of projects, those projects might work for a little bit, but it might not change the dynamic in the way that you want it to in your congregation. Would you tell people a little bit about church vitality and why it's more than just little projects that it takes to steer a church?
Well, Bishop Megan is, you know that also I'm a kind of a big thinking too in visioning. Vitality or vital congregations is communities of Jesus, congregation group of women gathered to reflect on the word, or quilting, a group of young people who are helping a community food pantry, communities of Jesus, nurturing relationship with God, with one another, and with the world. So some of the projects that we're thinking is always like there's this dichotomy that it's part of the church and it's among us, and possibly the other ones. And if we could see that this more holistic way of seeing vital congregations happen in this relationship, that again, it's a triune God, and a trinity of relationship with God, with one another, and with the rest of the world, and cannot be an either or, but both, and this grounded in the word, grounded in our relationship with one another, and always being sent to the world. And so I also would like to say, I'm glad that you put the word evangelism there. Evangelism happens because a layperson invited a friend, a family member, and say, I have been a part of this community for 30 years. Sometimes I'm afraid to invite you, but I have been blessed with this community. Sometimes it's also because I'm hurt by this community. Listen to this. I'm hurt by this community. It doesn't mean that God is not present there. And I could be one of those people who will be a change agent in a community that even hurt me. So there's a lot of again, centered on relationship and centered on the resources that God has given us around us.
One of the things that I thought I should say out loud, because I've heard it from a few leaders in our church, is that that I'm doing this backwards, right? In a typical congregational capital campaign, you work through everything you want to fix around your building, and then you make the architectural plan, and then you ask people for the cost of it after you have worked out every single detail. We're doing this backwards because it is evangelism. Our goal is to cast our nets to every side of the boat and say, these are our strategic visions. One, it's our vision to create camps and retreat centers and multicultural centers in both urban and rural settings that support diverse leadership throughout our synod. Two, it's our vision to create self-sustaining faith communities in buildings that are used for worship, community centers, and social entrepreneurial evangelism. And three, it's our vision to support holy do-overs in as many closing congregations as possible. Now, holy do-overs is not the official term for what happens when there is a holy closure. Pastor Tita can tell you all the proper terms. Holy do-over is a folksy thing I made up that just simply means if your congregation is nearing the end of its current mission and you imagine that another space might have a new mission in that building, Pastor Amanda will work on a holy closure with you and help you determine, what do you want to do with your property? What do you want to do with your assets? How do you want to gift the world as you end your mission? If in that discernment conversation, not in a pressure to do any one thing or another, but if you determine or imagine that another worshiping community that also loves Jesus and is Lutheran might be something that could pop up in that space, particularly if the neighborhood has changed and you think maybe the folk who live in the neighborhood now might want to have a mission for what God could be up to, then that's when Pastor Tita comes in and helps you reimagine and reassess and look at the demographics of the area and imagine the ways that that particular location and the people who care about that location might discern moving together with the Holy Spirit with what happens next. It's a holy do-over because the membership list is like an Etch-a-Sketch. You get a do-over. The treasurer's books, you get a do-over. All the filings with the state, do-over, right? It maybe has a new name, but it's a holy do-over to restart mission again. And it allows the opportunity, like Jesus on Easter morning to resurrect what might be happening next in that location. So we're asking people to contribute to this vision. So first, we're going to ask you specifically, if you can support financially this vision, please do, because there have been times when those who have the least are only able to have a pastor if they can afford the pastor, or if they can afford the property for their worship space. And we want to be the kind of synod where all people get to have pastors and get to have faithful places to talk about Jesus, one step at a time. We want you to contribute to this vision with your time and your talents. You can join us in Oakland in February, and we're going to have one of our very first service projects with people from all over the area trying to literally fix up these buildings the same way we might if we went on a mission trip to another country, because there are properties in our area that need that kind of love and care and attention too. We want you to contribute to the vision of this with your ideas, so that this is not just an idea that happened in a silo or from the Synod office or from the Synod Council even, but it really is a way that the community of God is able to connect and come together. How beautiful would it be if these ministry sites or these properties came alive to support the community, not because any one person willed it to be so, but because we all came together and did a thing bigger than any one of our congregations. That's how I define the word synod. And I think we've been up to some of that in the past, and it makes sense that we can be up to that again. In the oldie times, in the 60s and 70s, there was a Lutheran Board of Mission. They did several of these amazing creative projects, but they were able to do it because they could fund them first and then let people be in the community and listen to the community and be in the community discerning what should happen next. And then if the idea they had on paper didn't work, to try the thing that actually works in practice and in person. So let's learn from our Lutheran wise folk in the past and learn from the neighborhoods and communities around us so we can grow into the diversity we ought to be. So that's my hope and my pitch. Are there bits of it that I have left out, Gail or Tita? That's our big pitch to you. And so please.
I think I think the big pitch is that we cannot do this alone, no matter where you are. Even if you cannot come to Mount Cross, or you cannot be a part of the forming of a new camp in Reno, wherever you are, this could happen because we are all in this together. So that's my pitch is, please do not think of yourself if you are in far away, away from Oakland, that, oh, I cannot go there in February 18th. But there are so many opportunities. And if we can do this together, and please just let us know so we can learn as well.
And start thinking about this. You can start including Sierra Pacific Outdoors in your mission gifts right now. Add a little bit extra to the mission support you already send to the Synod, and just write Sierra Pacific Outdoors on there, or that camp idea. We'll figure it out. But also, you'll have an opportunity to learn more about this at our upcoming Synod Assembly in Reno Sparks at the Nugget. We're going to have a day of service because of course we are, right? And all of the ways that we gather together are going to benefit these important ministries through the offering, through a banquet that's going to be so fun, and through the ways that we gather and share our generosity and abundance. Even if all of this fails, which I don't think it's going to, how could it? We have a great team, you guys. Even if all of this fails, I would rather we were a synod that tried, that leaned and erred on the side of evangelism and did everything we could to invest in diversity and in trying to help our church life and our faith life to be as robust as the creation that God has made. And so if you are nervous because it's hard in the midst of a pandemic to feel like there is abundance and grief is everywhere, I hope that thinking about this idea, dreaming about this idea, even if it's just to dream about going to camp, going on vacation, and the world being okay with that. Like, let's be people who dream together. I'm going to lift up one of our comments about living near Mount Cross and helping out for the summers there and being grateful to hear about it. If you have a deep love of Mount Cross, remember, you can donate through the Synod, but you can also send Mount Cross a check directly. They'll be very grateful for that as well. I'm appreciative of everyone who has taken the time to listen to this idea. I hope you will continue in the conversation. And thank you to everyone who has given towards this effort, who has kept Mount Cross going all this time, and who is a part of this great synod. I appreciate you quite a bit. You got any final thoughts, Gail or Tita? No?
Nope.
All right.
Nope. Join us. Join us in this journey.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you, and we are praying for you.